So let's begin. I'm going to take one of my maduros. I'm going to cut the edges off with a knife. Make sure your knife is sharp. That's very important. If you have a dull knife, you're going to have a little bit of difficulty when you're cutting into the maduro. And you can either cause the knife to jump, which can cause you to cut yourself, or you're going to damage the plátano as you cut it. So, as you can see, I'm cutting it through. I am taking off the skin. It is much easier to work with a sweet plantain than it is versus the green plantain. The green plantain is very hard. It has a harder skin, so it requires a little bit more work. So for this, as you know, I have about 7 plátano maduros, and I'm going to be cutting right through them. Now, Puerto Ricans, we use the term plátano maduro, sweet plantain, or plátano macho, green plantain. We do not use the word guineo. Guineo for us is your sweet banana or your green banana. So however they say it in your country, if that's what works for you, that's fine. This is how we say it as Puerto Ricans, and that should work for us. Now to continue, as you can see, I have all of my plátanos cut up. I'm gonna start getting ready to slice it. So remember, your knife has to be really sharp because the texture of the maduro, it can be a little slippery. So you want to make sure it's as sharp as you can possibly have it. You should get about 3 to 4 slices out of this. It all depends on the size of your maduro. Some of them are thicker than others. So at least if you can get 4 slices out of this, you're good. If you can't and you can only get 3, that's okay. That's why in the beginning I stated you should have at least 10 plátano maduros because size is a factor. So as you can see, I was able to slice them, and I have about 6 more to go. I want you to understand this is probably one of the most tedious moments in making the piñon. It's number 1, doing the meat, but number 2, getting the plátano maduro and slicing it the right way. It can be time consuming, and you have to have patience. So please be patient while you're making this. Perfection is not needed, but it could always be used when making this dish. So as you can see, I am slicing through. I think on one of them I was able to get at least 3 slices because it was slightly smaller than the other maduro. But for the most part, I was able to get 4 slices out of most of the maduros, which is important. So we're going to continue slicing through. And I'm going very carefully, not just because my knife is sharp, but because I don't want to destroy it as I cut it. One wrong move and I end up cutting it in half. So the reason why we do this way is we're sort of making a lasagna. That's what piñon is. It's kind of like a lasagna, except we're using sweet plantains. And we add queso blanco, white cheese, or we add a mix of cheeses. And it comes out really delicious. But for the most part, this is the kind of meal that really, I think, I've only known to eat it during the holidays or on special occasions because it is a lot of work, but it's so worth it. If you make enough, you can put it in the refrigerator for a few days and have it again throughout the week. So we are almost there as I'm cutting through. And I gotta tell you, for me, this process was the most time consuming. I mean, even the meat I felt went a little bit quicker. There we go. There we have our maduros, and we are ready to get ready to put them to fry. Now, when you're going to go fry them, you're not going to fully cook them. You can't, for the simple reason that you need them to become fully cooked when they're in the oven. So you don't want them to burn. So here we are adding our coconut oil. I'm adding a good amount. I would say maybe about 4 to 5 tablespoons. It all depends on the size of your pan. And then I'm going to get ready to add my butter as well. Your butter should be unsalted. And the reason why I add the butter is because it gives it a creamier texture and a really nice light taste to it. If you want to make maduros in a very healthy way, this is the way to go. Stay away from those saturated oils, those seed oils as they're called, such as canola, vegetable. Those are oils that are really no good for you. This is preferable. Now you got to be careful because depending on the brand of unsalted butter, it can jump in the oil as the oil begins to get hot. So just be very careful of that. Don't let it burn too much. You just want it to get hot enough that it begins to formulate in the pot. You'll begin to see those little bubbles. That's what you want. And you're going to lay it out straight so that way it can fry. What we want is to get a nice golden color, but not too much, remember that. Now, if you got to see it earlier, I don't know, but I was very clear that when you have your maduros, you got to have at least 3 or 4 that are not as ripe. That's very important because that's going to be the base. And you don't want it to be too soft, or else it won't be able to hold your meat and your cheese firmly. It's your foundation, so you need to have some that are not as ripe, which, as you can see, this one is slightly thicker. It's not as ripe because that's going to be part of your base for the bottom and the top of your piñon. So we're going to continue going through it, and thank God I'm almost done with it. But this is the most important part. Once you do that, once you fried it, you set it to the side, let it cool off a little bit. Not that much, but you know, let it cool off, okay? And then you're going to begin to set your baking pan. In this case, I used a cast iron skillet because of the shape. And of course, most of the time we do piñon in an aluminum pan, which tends to be rectangular. But it can be a little bit complex because the plátano maduro has a curvature to it. So it sort of makes it a little complicated. In this case, I thought, you know what, let me get the round skillet. It will be better. So as you can see, I'm getting ready to add the maduros. I added a little bit of avocado oil, okay? And for me, that helps a little bit. You know, it also adds a really good flavor. I didn't want the maduros to stick to the bottom of the parchment paper. That's not what I wanted. So I added it as a precaution. You may not have to do that, it all depends, but I did it. And you begin to cover your plate piece by piece. Now I got very fortunate when I was doing this because I realized I was sort of like 2 plátanos short, but it still came out almost perfect, which for me was important. So as you can see, I'm going to start layering with the maduros, and I'm looking at the size. I'm looking at the thinnest one, the thickest one, to try to angle it the right way, so that way nothing comes out of place. All right. The next step, which is probably the most important step, right? You're going to take your egg wash. You're going to put that on there, and then you're going to add your meat to it. In this case, I use ground beef. I prefer using organic ground beef, 80-20, because it adds more liquid from the beef. It's not as dry, and it's workable. You can work with it better. That's my recommendation. If you don't want to use that, you don't have to. You can use ground turkey or ground chicken. But understand that because those meats are more dry, you have to make sure you have a good amount of moisture in there, or else it's not going to have a good taste. Okay? So as you can see, I'm working as best I can with what I have. Because I started to realize, oh, sugar, I'm short. I'm like really short with these pieces. So I did the best I could, but it did work out in the end. So now the next step is going to be being able to get the meat ready. And I did the meat earlier. The meat alone just took me about an hour or so to work with, because I'm very meticulous with my meat. I have to clean it, even though it's chopped meat. I do that. I squeeze the lemon on top, half a lemon, depending on how much meat I have. And as it's cooking, I continue to add a little bit more lemon. to clean it out. That's just a habit of mine. Then I'll add my sofrito. Then I'll add my condiments, my salt, my pepper, my adobo, a little bit of cayenne pepper, and I cook it up very nicely. So as you see, I did the egg wash. That's very important. You're doing lasagna technically. That's what you're doing, except you're using plantains. So now with my meat was already done. Thank God I did that earlier. You don't want to make the meat at the same time as you're making the maduros because it'll be too much. The meat will be too hot. The maduros will be too hot. It won't come out good. So in this case, I'm getting ready to prep my meat. I had put it in a separate bowl on the side. And cheese. Do not forget the cheese. That's the most important part. So now we have the ground beef. And of course, I used organic, 80-20. And I'm going to spread it out evenly. That's what you got to do, just like a lasagna. Just think of it that way. If you're really good at making lasagna, this should be easy for you. It shouldn't be complicated. So we're going to go now and we're going to add the sauce. You have two choices. You can add the sauce before, which I did, or you can add it afterwards. And you can put several types of cheeses. In this case, I used a little bit of cotija cheese, which you can get that from Whole Foods. And then I used shredded Mexican cheese. It's really good. It's light in the flavor. If you get the organic one, that's the best one because it has a very light touch to it. It's not heavy. You don't want a heavy piñon. You really don't. It doesn't taste the greatest when it's that heavy. You want to be able to enjoy the meal. And you don't have to do this, but I decided to do this at the last minute. I decided to add vegetables. Because, I mean, come on. What are the odds of you having a piñon with a green salad? Almost slim to none. It just doesn't happen that way, you know? And you could use your vegetables. No one's going to die if they have them. You don't have to add this. You know, it was just my choice. I thought we could incorporate it for the Easter Sunday meal. Because that's what we were doing, Easter Sunday meal. And there was just too many things happening at once. I was cooking too many things. And I didn't want to deal with a salad afterwards. So I felt this was the easiest way to do this. Now the next layer is going to come, okay, which in fact is my sauce. Now in this case, usually I prep my meat with my sauce, but for some reason I didn't because I didn't have the time to do it. I just did the meat separately, so I added my sauce. I use marinara sauce. I am very picky with my sauces, so in this case I ended up using, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was it Calabrese or Little Italy? I can't recall. I just know that it is quality marinara sauce. There's nothing else in it but pure tomatoes. And it has a very nice texture. That's the way I want it. And I added it on there. Normally, I would take my tomato sauce, mix it with my meat, and then put the meat on there. But in this case, I did it this way for some reason. I was running out of time. So now we're going on to the second layer. Okay, and we're gonna finish off and top it off with the maduros that we have there. So as I'm doing that, I start realizing, oh crap, I'm short by a few maduros, and I probably just needed one more maduro, one more plátano to really seal the deal. But I said, okay, I don't have that. I have to work with what I have. I have to be careful with how I put it, and how I can work with it. I got to make it stretch out. It's got to fit. It's got to work, you know. And I did that. So I'm just finishing it off with that. And then I topped it off with some cheese. And I did another egg wash. And put it in the oven for about 40 minutes. 45 minutes. It depends on the kind of oven you have. Because remember, most of this is about 75% cooked. You just need to cook it a little bit more so it can bind. That's the whole point. You need it to bind. So I did that for about, I think about 40 minutes, but I put it at 325. I didn't put it at 350. And I was keeping a close eye on it because I didn't want it to burn. And that's basically it. That's how you do a really good piñon, but time consuming it is. This feeds about 8 people. This can feed about 8 people. Imagine doing this for about 20 people. You know, it's a lot of work. Altogether, it took me about 2.5 hours to do, but it was so worth it. I enjoyed it 100%. I enjoyed it. I have to say it. And I haven't had piñon in such a long time. And it was a special day, and I said, why not? Let's make piñon. Let's do something different. So I topped it off with my meat and then added another layer, a tiny little layer of maduros. And that was it. We went from there. The most important thing, when doing this is your meat. Your meat has to stand out. It's got to be delicious for this dish to work. Because plátanos cook for themselves. They have that sweet taste. You just, use your coconut oil, your butter. But the meat is what really helps. If your meat is cooked well, it has the right seasoning, the right flavors, forget it. You're going to have an amazing dish with this piñon, Building it is fun. You get to be creative with it. But I will tell you, this pairs really well by itself. You don't need to have white rice and beans with it. This is a meal all on its own. It stands on its own. So you can have this. You can make it very healthy like the way I did and not have to worry about ingesting all of that fat, the trans fats from the oils. This is a healthy piñon, and that's the way it should be. So I am almost done. As you can see, I was literally trying to stretch out my maduros to try to get as much as I can in there because I ran out. And then I put it in the oven, and when it comes out, it looks so beautiful. Just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. That it's hard to not want to eat the whole thing. Very difficult. Last but not least, you're going to put your final egg wash on there. Okay, just to give it some shine. And then pop it in the oven so it can cook a little bit more. And again, keep an eye out on your oven. My oven is pretty modern, but you may have something that's older. It may take you a little longer. The top of it cheese. I did everything I could to cover it as much as possible because I was short of maduro. That's just bad, but it worked. So it goes in the oven, and then when it comes out, oh my goodness, it's gonna look fabulous. I have no doubt. Almost done. And there we go. You don't have to use that much cheese. Again, I did that because I was short on my maduros. I didn't have much of a choice. In the oven, I put my cast iron skillet in the oven, covered my piñon, and let it cook for 30 to 40 minutes extra. Took it out. It was very hot. Got to be careful when you take it out. And now I'm about to show the finished product. So let's take a look. Let's see. And there you have it. It looks great. Absolutely great. And I can assure you, it tasted very good. So as you can see, the cheese is well incorporated. The maduros have a nice color. I didn't burn it. It looks good. I probably could have done a 3-layer, but I would have needed a deeper dish, and I didn't have one. So it was fine. I mean, it was good enough for the 4 of us. And so cutting it was a breeze. It was very soft, which is the way you want it, You really want to be able to not have a hard time cutting into it. I could have added more cheese if I really wanted to make it really gooey, but that wasn't going to be the base of my product For me, the base of my product was going to be the maduros and the beef. And actually, this dish fed us for about 2.5 days. Yeah, it was enough leftovers. So it worked out well. Now I'm cutting it in 2 pieces so I can give it to my sister to try it, to get her opinion, because she just eats everything in sight without a problem. And we're almost there. I can smell it from here. For some reason, it didn't want to come out. And it wasn't stuck. Just didn't cut it through the right way. So as you can see, the vegetables and the beef gives it a really nice color. And so the critic begins. All right, let's see how it tastes. Go, Amanda, let me know.
All right. We got a piñon here, or pastelon. You can call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter.
It does matter. Don't call it pastelon. Go ahead.
Traditional Puerto Rican dish. It's got layers of, it's like a lasagna. Think of it that way. We have ground beef here. We have layers of plátano maduros covering it with veggies. We're going to go for it and try it.
She just cut that piece that's there.
Let's see.
And you're going to break it apart.
I have to get this one here. It's messy. All right, let's see. Happy Easter.
What is it missing? Is it good?
It's fine.
Tastes good, yeah?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Sweet. Meat is good. I'm the biggest critic when it comes to food.
But you eat everything. How convenient.
Well, most things. You gotta go somewhere.
Good? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good enough. Me boté.